sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.
And good evening, eventually. Took a little while to get things wound up and ready to go there, didn't it? But I'm here now. So welcome to Dave's Tacklebox on Sunday the 29th of July 2012. It's nearly August. And it's even more nearly my holiday. So this is the last broadcast I'll be doing for a couple of weeks. But I'll tell you about what's happening next week a bit later in the show. Because we've got it all covered. It's all going to be good. Tonight's show, we'll be joined by Dougie shortly. And you might remember if you watched last week, we were talking about this 45mg juice and I sent him some. So we'll be getting Dougie's thoughts on that. Like I say, I've been sort of figuring out what I'm taking on holiday with me vaping wise on Tuesday, and I've decided I'm going to take these Raptor tanks with me, but they need a little tweak. So towards the end of the show I've got a little VT of a little tweak that I was advised to do to the Raptor tank, and so I'll show you what I did there. But all in all, I'm feeling quite relaxed. I don't have to get up at 4:30 AM tomorrow for the first time in well, a long time. And I'm quite enjoying that actually, so I'm having a beer. And I suggest you do the same. Right, so to get this show started, because we're a little bit late starting, my timing has all gone to pot. So I think I've got to add 5 minutes to everything. So yeah, we're probably going to end up screwing things up here, but what's new, eh? Yeah, Olympics. Got to mention the Olympics. There's a lot of people, including myself, who are very cynical about the Olympics, and I've got to be honest, I've spent most of this weekend watching the Olympics, and not just the women's beach volleyball, which I have been accused of. I have actually watched some other sports as well. The opening ceremony I thought was fantastic. I've already had a text from one of my German colleagues asking what the hell was that all about, and that just made me smile. That was quintessentially British, and I thought just an absolute masterpiece. So there we go. It looks like we might be having a few technical problems in the background still with live stream. I'm not sure. I'm trying to keep up with the comments, but you know, hey, I'll just talk to people, and I'll just talk to this camera, and hopefully people will see it. You know, so oh no, all is fine, DK. Thank you, Cat. So the production team there pedaling as hard as they can. All the live channels are fine. That's great. All the live channels are fine, and I've got a recording, so we can handle it. The podcast will be there, and the archive will be there. So, like I say, yes, Olympics has kind of dominated the weekend. And like I say, I was as cynical as anybody, you know, about the Olympics until it started. And then I've suddenly become all patriotic. And if you haven't watched any, do. It's good. It's good. Right. So, as I say, I've been trying to decide what gear I should take on holiday with me, vaping gear wise. And like I say, I've settled on the Raptor tanks, and to be honest with you, this has been the most stressful thing that's happened to me in the last few days, is deciding what to pack. I think if I limit myself to 2 pairs of socks, I can probably get most of the vaping gear in my case. So yeah, I'm almost done with that. But anyway, I think I've just about got a grip of where we are with the time. So let's have a quick sting and then we'll get the show started. So last week I was joined by Dougie, and I did a little VT myself as well about this 45 mg juice. Now, I've mentioned it quite a lot, and there's a good reason for it. It is kind of has become my all-day vape. When I spoke to you last week, I told you that I hadn't been taking it to Germany with me. I'd only been using it at the weekends. Well, I used it all week. And it has something like halved my juice consumption. Which, if you're travelling about the place, actually, forget the any financial incentive to halve the amount of juice you use. That means I've been filling things up half as often. Things have been going dry and running out of me half as often. I'm starting to find this juice incredibly convenient. I've been sent yet more flavour samples. I've mostly been using this stuff if I can find it. This is RY4 45 mg, Flavour Art UK. But I've also now got a RY4 vanilla sample, which is rather nice. And an RY4, well, this one's called Nutzilla. And it's rather good. I've been using this quite a lot. It's basically an RY4 base with like a nutty flavour on it. And if I may say so, it's a work of genius. I like this juice. But I've stocked up on RY4 for the holiday. Bear in mind you use half as much of this stuff as my regular juice, and I think 60 ml should just about get me through. It had better do. But yeah, so it's it may sound like I'm over plugging this stuff, but that's really not the intention. The fact is that it's all on vaping at the moment. I haven't touched any other juice flavour now for well over a week. So as you recall, last week, if you saw the programme last week, I sent a bottle along to Dougie to try it, and he did, and he filmed it like I asked him to. So let's hear from Dougie. Here we go.
Good evening, everybody. So last week on the show, which would have been the 22nd, on Dave's Tacklebox, we discussed the 45 mg juice from Flavour Art UK. Is it a good or a bad thing? I have not tried it, so all I could do was express my thoughts, which I did on the show. So I'm not going to go back into it, but basically I managed to get some sent to me from Dave, and I chose the Virginia, and it's arrived. I'll just show you so you can see. It says on there nicotine 45 mg, and Dave made me promise not to use it until I was on camera. So my or as he called it, the money shot. So I haven't tried it, and I'm going to try it now. So let's just put a few drops on. Put 5 drops on there because it's a dry atty. Okay, so let's see. does have a kick. Definitely does have a kick. Wow. Really big kick. I can feel it already. Wow. Really strong. Really, really big sensation on the throat and at the windpipe. Wow. Flipping out. So, first impressions, yeah. Dave wasn't joking when they said there is a good hit from the juice. No wonder they call it Bite Extra. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this as Dave's been doing, and see if it starts to alter the amount of time I spend using my device, and see if I can actually handle it, because that is strong, very, very strong. The flavour of it, I can taste, you know, some people can taste nicotine, some can't. I can definitely taste nicotine in that, but really, you know, it's probably to be expected, is this, it's such a high concentration of nicotine in there. So what I'll do, I'll continue to use this, and you know, come back and give you a bit of an update as and when I feel, you know, I've noticed any difference in vaping habit, or if it makes me get headaches and so on. Basically when there's some newsworthy side. Still, big kick. I thought I might have got used to it by now. It's really, really strong. The flavour of the Virginia, you know, it's got a taste of tobacco on this. Do I like the flavour? I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I'm going to continue using it anyway, just to keep seeing how it alters, or if indeed it does alter my vaping pattern. Definitely feel when you've had your fill of nicotine. Okay, so I've been using the 45mg Bite Extra liquid from Flavour Out UK for the past 4 evenings now. I've been using it just in the evenings, so I feel I've got a bit of a feel for it, obviously more than I did have on last week's show. So, did it, or has it changed my vaping habit? Yes, it has. I mean, I was taking 3 or 4 draws and then putting it down for anything from half an hour to 45 minutes. So it definitely difference. You know, so I've used a lot less juice. However, you know, like I say, I've only been using it 4 evenings, and one of my main worries was that we would get used to this strength of liquid and slowly creep up using it more. Now, time's only going to tell on that, and luckily I've been sent some more flavours from, you know, because I got this one from Dave, and I've been sent some more from Flavour Art UK themselves, so that's going to allow me to use it for a little while longer, so I can give a further update in possibly, you know, a few weeks. Now, what I found with this is, yes, the kick, as Dave said, is very, very strong. Sometimes it's overpowering for me. You know, you'll use it and you'll get a big kick, and you'll use it 3 or 4 times and you'll put it down. Like I say, it could be up to 45 minutes, and then I'll pick it up again, and bam, it's there. It's strong. You don't get used to the throat hit at all with it. It's just strong all the time. Sometimes it's to the point where it gets a little bit uncomfy. Not that it's giving me a sore throat or anything like that, but it's very, very strong. Headaches, I haven't had a headache from this. You know, when you're getting enough, you're starting to feel a little something, but that's only happened a couple of times. You know, so that's basically what I found in 4 days. It does, or it has, changed my vaping habit, but you know, it needs a little bit more time of me using this to see if I end up creeping up using it more and more, which, as I said, was my big worry. And the only downside for me on it is sometimes the throat hit gets a little bit, you know, overpowering. Okay. See, so that's what I found so far. Okay, so I'll see you back in the studio.
Now, there's a temptation to laugh and snigger a bit at that, because we certainly got the money shot there. But the reality is that was almost like an action replay of when I first tried it on air, which I showed last week as well. The sort of shock followed by the cough, the intense feeling there, which comes directly from vaping it like you do with your normal liquid. You do not need a huge, long, typical vapor style drag of this stuff to get the effect. There were some questions in chat there about the patterns on the curtains changing after a while, but also there were some questions there, well, what about overdoing it? And you know, we're going to get Dougie back in the studio in just a few minutes, and we can discuss that and see what his thoughts are now that he's given it a go. But yeah, thank you for delivering there, Dougie. That was exactly the reaction I gave. And yeah, well, we'll take a short break, and then we'll get you in here in the studio, and we'll see what your thoughts are now. Back in 2 minutes, folks.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.
Do you want your cash to scratch a little bit further? Do you want a safer cig? Then you need Safer Cigs, a proud sponsor of VaporTrails.tv. Go to www.safercigs.co.uk, stretchy man not included.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.
And good evening, Dougie. Let's get
Good
rid
evening,
of that.
Dave.
I'll just get rid of that little echo. There we go. Right, okay. So thank you very much for sending me that VT. I think it was, as I said before, perhaps for me a little of a predictable reaction on those first couple of drags. It really is a bit like being thumped, isn't it?
It is, very much so. Even surprised me, I was expecting something, but yeah, real big wallop. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but okay, right then. So that was, you filmed that. Well, I downloaded that early yesterday, so you've had at least another 24 hours. Have you persisted with that stuff, or have you gone back to your regular?
I've been using it in the evenings still. I'm not using it during the day. So, I've persisted with using it in the evenings. And it's still early days for me, really. I'd say with the amount of time I've used it to see any change in, if I use it anymore.
Right.
I'm enjoying it. It's just very harsh, as I said.
Yeah, what I found with that though is you kind of, they were joking there in the chat room about putting your device down for a while, but the reality is you do. So it's a bit harsh, but then after a while you change your habit a little bit to manage that. And what I'm finding is it's actually quite pleasant. I will put the thing down for as much as 10 minutes at a time.
Whereas I can put it down for easily up to 45 minutes off like 2 drops on the atomizer. So I get like 4 draws out of it, and I can put it down for 45 minutes, which is good, very good. But I'm still interested to see if I start creeping up.
We could easily go into a much more involved conversation here about using these things as a method of giving up nicotine, because you can see. This 45 milligram idea came from e-cigs when Dave interviewed David Nunes, is it? Nunes from e-cigs a while ago on VT Talk. This is what they're going to package up, and they're getting their MA off the MHRA for. It's going to be a dose of nicotine. That's what it's going to be, and you can see where the logic comes from. There's there's a debate there that maybe we should try and spark up one night on VT.
Yeah.
On VTTV sometime, but probably not tonight, because I think it requires a little bit of thinking about. But I can kind of see how you could deliver this as a measured dose, like they tried to do with nicotine patches and things like that. But yeah, so the jury's still out for you. You're
It is, and I'm going to persist using it in the evenings because I am going to be interested to know if I can stick at putting it down for 45 minutes for a long period of time.
I'm just finding it's a convenient thing as much as anything else.
Oh, it's great. You know, I don't carry the device around with me. You know, if I potted off to do something around the house, just have a couple of drawers and I know I'm good to go. So yeah, very convenient in many ways.
Excellent. And but you weren't too struck on the flavour, you said?
Not the Virginia, no. But I've been using another one which is rather nice.
Which one was that one?
Yeah, it's the Blackjack, and it tastes like the Blackjack sweets.
I saw somebody on the forum putting that up as one of their favourite flavour art ones as well.
It's very nice. Very nice.
That's good. I'm on RY4 and variations
Have you had to try that one?
So, well, you shan't be getting any of this off me, put it that way.
I think I've got some in the box.
But he keeps sending me these little sort of sample bottles, like this RY4 Nutzilla's rather good.
Is it?
And RY4 Vanilla. And, yeah.
So what kind of nut is it? Is it like a Normandy?
Yeah, it's more of a tobacco nuttiness.
Right.
If that makes sense. It's... you know the way some tobaccos could be described as, I tell you, famous for this, Andy Sutton with his nuttiness rating.
Yeah.
It's that kind of nuttiness. It's nice. He sent me an email saying what was in it. I'll dig that out sometime. But it's worth a try as well. RY4 Nutzilla, that one's called. But anyway, right, tonight we're going to, because that was kind of just a little bit of an update from last week, wasn't it? Tonight we've got something that you stumbled across. And I'm just going to put up a little slide that took me ages to make earlier, honest. I mean, it may look like I threw this together in a few minutes, but I promise I didn't. And what this is a table which was put together by Mad Vapes, madvapes.com. Make sure they get the credit for this because it's all their work. And all I've done is put it in a pretty table. And what they've been doing is they've been trying to monitor how the concentration of nicotine degrades in liquid in different circumstances. So there are lots of versions of this sort of table around on the internet. They started off doing week 1, week 2, and we're currently up to 6 months of monitoring. And what they've done, if you look down the left-hand column there, what they did is they stored juice over this period of time in different ways. So they stored it in a fridge. Then they tried storing some in the office at room temperature. Then they kept some room temperature but on the windowsill, so it's getting light. And then they took the top off a bottle and left it on the windowsill. So again, room temperature, but letting the oxygen get to it as well. They took 4 bottles of 35 milligram juice and put each one into that sort of situation that I just went through. And then what we've got here is a table after so many months, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6 months, that shows how the nicotine concentration, what had happened to it. So to cut a long story short, after 6 months, the juice kept in the fridge remained at 35 milligram concentration. So it started off and ended with 35 milligrams per milliliter of juice. Just storing it in the bottle in the office at room temperature, it's dropped to 34 milligrams. On the windowsill, it dropped to 30 milligrams, so that's quite a drop. There's 4 milligram difference there just because it was on the windowsill. Mm-hmm. And if the one they took the top off dropped to 28 milligrams, so that's a 7 milligram drop, which is, it's quite a drop. Now, looking at those figures there, let's just get you back on screen there, Dougie. Looking at those figures there, it starts to make you think, well, how do I store mine? Now, I have no system whatsoever for storing my juice. And again, here's something that took me a long time to put together earlier, I promise. I've basically got two places where I store my juice, and they're captured to see here in this diagram here. So on the left hand side there, you have the pile on the desk just in front of the monitor I'm looking at now. And on the right hand side, you have the slightly more organised shelf. And I'm not sure if you can see that on anything yet at the moment, Dougie, but there's some rather large bottles of things like PG and 500ml bottles of unflavoured, and there's some totally wicked in there, and there's some home mixed stuff. There's all sorts of crap in there, and that's basically the stuff that I don't use that often. There's
quite well organised.
It looks it from there. I had to zoom in quite a bit to get that effect, if I'm honest. But mostly the bottles are lying on their side. Some have got tops on, some haven't. Some of them you can still read the labels, some you can't. So it's fair to say that it's a subject that I've never really taken seriously. How do you store your juice, mate?
Basically, behind this chair that I'm sat on, I have that, and it's got all the bottles in.
That's very well organised.
It's turned backwards so the light doesn't get on it. Obviously, I've got to keep my juice out of the way anyway with a little one bombing around. So
yeah, that's a very good point. That's an issue that I don't really have.
Exactly, and maybe if my daughter was older and flown the nest, as they say, I'd probably have them scattered around a little bit. I do have a couple of bottles that I have at the side that I'm using.
Well, you're welcome to adopt my system if you ever choose to. But
I'm sure I will over time.
And this thought, honestly, this has just popped into my head because I never gave it thought. I'm just going to look under the desk a second. So bear with me just a second there. Just to prove that once upon a time I did start off with good intentions. So I have a similar sort of box. It's not quite as big as yours. And this has got like mostly flavour concentrates and stuff in there. And so I'm not sure if I can hold this up so the camera will get it. But you get the general idea. And that's very neat and tight. It smells of Decadent Vapours roast beef flavour. That's quite strong, actually. I've never even opened that bottle and it smells. But there's various sort of mixing products and like some enormous syringes. So that's a 30ml syringe. And I've got some menthol crystals, and there's ethyl maltol and all sorts in there. And the reason that's so tidy is I think that's the first time I've opened it in probably 12 months. Because none of the actual juice that I've done that was supposed to be stored in there has actually made it into there. And that really does smell quite bad.
I mean, I open mine and I think the main smell I get is a blackberry crumble. That's all I'll say. But it is nice.
Blackberry crumble.
But yeah, I keep it organised because, like I say, because I've got to keep it away from the little one. But if I had the option, I do have, like I say, I have some bottles at the back. Make sure they've got the safety caps, but I've never thought about sticking them in a fridge or anything.
Well,
I just keep them in a dark place.
A lot of people swear by it, but I think this is actually the first sort of evidence that I've seen. Where somebody's actually properly studied it. I mean, apart from anything else, it's very hard to measure nicotine content in a juice, as we know from all the stuff with the Box Elder sort of debacle. Was that last year, or it was a long time ago anyway? The actual strength of juice is hard to measure, so that's probably why there aren't that many statistics about. But I think it's an interesting study they've done. I am tempted to say though, you leave a bottle with the top off for 6 months, and it's still, to be honest with you, can you tell the difference between 30 and 32 milligram juice?
You probably wouldn't at all. I mean, I know people will leave the lid off some bottles for up to a couple of weeks, for steeping new juices. Yeah.
Well, it appears that, the act of leaving the top off, this seems to demonstrate that something happens,
Yeah.
So, it kind of because I remember when the idea of steeping first came out, you know, there were a lot of skeptics. I mean, I never bother. You
No,
know,
I don't, to be honest.
You know, I mean, I buy it, I vape it, and then I buy some more.
I'd be interested to know as well, you know, because like you say, from 30, say it drops to from 35 to 30, you probably wouldn't know much of difference. But if you get the same amount from like a 12 milligram juice and say it dropped to 7, you probably would.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. You know, because like I say, I used to vape 24 until I started using this 45 stuff. But like, you know, every now and then when I mix my own, that could be anything between 25 and 30. You know, I'm not that precise. I just chuck it in until the bottles full, basically. So, but yeah, no, it's an interesting thought. I'm just wondering. I'm going to throw a question to chat, and you know, and, how many people do store their nicotine in the fridge, and see if anybody pipes up while we're talking. But while they're absorbing that, I mean, I've got like some bottles of mixing. Sort of unflavoured nicotine, VG and PG there, which I first opened just after I bought them in the very first Totally Wicked Yo-Yo sale, so I think that was the Christmas before last. So God knows if that's any good anymore.
I mean, what I don't even know what the life expectancy or how long you can keep these liquids for. I should really know that, shouldn't I?
Well, some people, they put a use-by date or at least a sell-by date on there, don't they? I'm just looking at the Flavour Art stuff because it's what's in front of me. And this says used by July 14, so he's obviously putting a 12-month... a 2-year, sorry. It's only 2012, isn't it? He's putting a 2-year life expectancy on it. And I have heard that said before because the nicotine content will degrade. But if that degrades... Well... The one with the top off, that had gone down from 35, that's 7, so that's gone down sort of, what's that, that's 20%, isn't it?
I'm rubbish with crunching numbers like that, Dave.
I think that's right. I think that's right, yes, it's gone down 20% in 6 months. So if you left the top off your juice and left it on the windowsill...
I can't see why you'd do that, to be honest, like you say.
No, you'd just spill it, wouldn't you? You would on my desk.
Well, why would you have the top off for 6 months on a windowsill?
I'm just wondering what sort of effect time has had on the stuff that's actually loose and swimming around on my desk.
You can buy little kits, can't you, to do the tests?
I think you can't you? There was some talk of them, but weren't they accurate within 90% or something? I seem to remember that they weren't... there's some fancy process and big machine you have to get to do it properly, because I know e-cigs invested in one, didn't they? And they're doing tests for people. Just to check what they're buying in as much as anything, I think. Again, that was a result of the box elder thing. I haven't seen anybody say that they keep their stuff in the fridge yet at all. So...
No, well, to be honest, if you look at them graphs, if you're keeping it in, like me, for instance, in my office at room temperature, there's not a massive difference, is there? You know, it's dropping to what? It's dropped a milligram.
Something like that. Let's get the chart back up and we can have a look.
You know, it's dropped a milligram, so is there any real need?
Well, exactly, and you know, I'd say room temperature. The room temperature in here is quite warm at the moment with these lights on, so God knows what effect that'll have. But yeah, just to summarise, there was no drop after 6 months in the fridge. 1 milligram room temperature, 5 milligrams though on the windowsill at room temperature, and then 7 milligrams with the top off on the windowsill at room temperature.
Yeah, so in other words, just keep it in a dark room temperature, you know, out of the way of lights or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not doing too well on any of those, actually, so cooking
well, that's
under
like I say,
lights.
why I chuck it behind this chair, you know, it's dark, it's out of the way.
That seems to be good practice, Dougie, it seems to be good practice. Right, well, we're almost there at time. Because I've just got to add, because I was late starting, I have to adjust everything, and I'm not really sure where I'm at the moment. I think we can go for another couple of minutes. So I gather that you have found a love of a new sport like I have, in the last couple
yes.
of days, women's beach volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
I'm. Can you get tickets for this or what?
You probably can. I bet they're on eBay for extortionate prices at the moment. I was having a bit of a discussion with the wife, and she says she doesn't understand why they need to be wearing such
so many
skimpy clothing.
Oh, right, sorry.
But I actually thought it was a rule they had to, and she seems to believe it's not true. I thought it was a rule they had to wear those amount of clothes.
We talk about like equal rights for women and what have you. If they want to wear those clothes, then they have every right.
Ease of movement was my argument with the wife.
Absolutely. I did think it was funny that when the men came out, they wear t-shirts and everything as well.
Did he?
Yeah. It's my theory that I'm not sure, but my theory is that it's a male organising committee.
You're probably right.
It could be, couldn't it?
Good on him. I'll shake their hands.
And I've got to ask you before I go, who's presenting Dave's Tacklebox next week, Dougie?
Me.
Is it too soon to ask you what's in store?
I do know a couple of things that's going to be on.
Right.
I'm going to give a little bit of information about me for people who haven't met me or watched me.
Right.
I'm going to give a little bit of information on what I'm using. A little bit, let's call it Doug's Tacklebox, one of the little features probably. And I'm going to take a look at the Ego Customizer as well.
Okay.
So we have a look into that.
That sounds good.
There might be a little bit of a funny feature as well for everybody to have a bit of a laugh at me as well.
That's all right. I thought you were going to say have a laugh at me then, so I'm all for that. Well, I'm going to do my best to watch, but I will be in a hotel. So what the Wi-Fi is going to be like, I have no clue. But rest assured, if it's possible, I'll certainly be watching the podcast the following day, that's for sure. So I just want to say best of luck for next week. I'm sure everybody's going to... Yeah, there we go. We've got a new name for the show, Dougie's Temporary Tackle Box.
Brilliant.
That's inspired. Thank you, Midge Dog. I wish you all the best, mate. I'm not going to wish you luck because I know you won't need luck. You're going to do great. They're going to love you.
Fingers crossed.
And if you get any sort of anybody phoning in from Tenerife, it's probably best not to take the call if you're on air, all right?
No worries.
And don't go breaking the viewing records because that would just be bad form.
They'll probably all switch off after 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, all the best with that, Dougie.
No worries.
I'm going to take us into our second break now, and we're going to say good night to you. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, mate.
You will do. Have a good holiday, Dave.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one. See you, Doug.
Cheers. See you.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.
The GG. Because you want one. iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk, proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.
And that was Dougie. Not just the star of the show, but the presenter of the show next week as well. In actual fact, he's filling in a couple of nights for me in August while I'm off gallivanting around Europe. And I just know he's going to be great. You do too. So make sure you're there and support him. You know, get all your friends round. You know, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Right, now, so I said earlier, I'm taking these two Raptor tanks with me on my holiday when I leave on Tuesday, but they needed a little tweak, and the reason they needed a little tweak was I'm finding that when the tank is full, it was over wicking, get juice down that central post, and I wouldn't call it a leak, but if you detach the thing, then it needs a clean with a bit of tissue paper, and it's very gurgly to vape. And when it got to the bottom, you have to kind of sort of tip the thing on its side and absolutely saturate the long wick for a while, you know, to the point that if you've got like a mill of juice left and you can't be bothered to go and fill the tank up, then I found I was doing this and then twiddling and doing that to get the other one to make sure there was enough there and I wasn't getting a dry spot. So I noticed on UK Vapors forum that there was a little tips, a little trick that you could do to improve that. And also Paula at Vapor World popped me an email and said, this is what I do. So I thought, I'll give it a go. I made a little bit of film of it. There's a VT around here somewhere, he says, hopefully. This is what I did earlier. So last week on Dave's Tacklebox, I did a sort of first impressions review of the Raptor tank from vaporworld.co.uk, and since I got back from Germany on Thursday night, it's Sunday morning at the moment, I have continued to use it and I've decided I quite like this, to the extent that I've decided I'm taking these two Raptor tanks I was sent away with me on holiday on Tuesday. However, there's one slight issue that I'm going to try and resolve with it. They have sort of, they're not very long wicks. If the VV Novas and the Vision Egos, they tend to either have the short wicks or very long wicks, depending on what version you get. The wicks on these are kind of not one nor the other. And I've had a couple of tips from people to say that if you snip the wicks so they just touch the edge of the tank, then you get a better balance between sort of flooding the coil, yet keeping the coil damp enough to vape. And because I'm finding that to get juice to the coil once the tank's empty, you have to hold it on its side and let the wicks pick the juice up for a while. And because they're long, it takes quite a bit of doing that to get enough onto the coil. And then on the other hand, when the tank's full, it's wicking too much juice to the coil, so it gets a bit gurgly, and you can also get a little bit of leakage at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the advice that I've seen both on the forum, and it was also given to me in an email by Paula of vaporworld.co.uk as well, to recommend that I just shorten these wicks slightly from what I've got at the moment. So what I'm going to do is point the camera downwards, take it apart, give it a little wipe and a clean down while I'm at it because it's empty, and now seems like a good time to do it, and see how I get on with that. So here goes. Okay, so I'm going to remove the tank from the device I was using, which was a Provari. Drop off the 510 to Ego adapter that I've been using so I could use it on the Provari. What I'm going to do is just take it apart, wipe everything down with a bit of tissue paper, and then use my trusty Leatherman to snip the wicks. Let's see how it goes. Just wiping off juice so I don't get it everywhere. Obviously this has been immersed in juice now for a week. This is the PG core still, the standard resistance PG core. The juice I'm using is really very runny, very watery, and it seems to work just fine with this. So, like I say, if I can just improve it slightly by optimising the length of these wicks, then that could be good. So, let's wipe out the juice from inside there. Okay, that'll do. So the object of the exercise then is to cut these wicks so that they just touch the edge of the tank, was the way it was recommended to me. You can see at the moment that they're not even, and they touch the side of the tank and then head downwards. So now, to do this precisely, I'm not even going to bother trying to do this precisely. I'm going to go for it and take a rough guess at how long they need to be. So, got some scissors, should be nice and sharp. I'm going to cut the first one about there and try that first of all. I can get a grip on them. Didn't cut quite as cleanly as I hoped. There we go. So as you can see, I've cut one side a lot shorter than the other one. Let's just see how that matches up. That's probably about right, I think. See, this is the shortened side and that's the still long side, so I think I got that about right. So I'm just going to do the other side to the same length. Seems to be about there. That doesn't look too bad. Okay, and I think that pretty much fits what I was advised to do, just touching the sides of the tank. Let's see. Obviously the proof will be filling it up and seeing if it works. So I have some more of the same juice I've been using. So the comparison between how it used to wick and how it wicks now should be a fair comparison. I'm going to put, I don't know, say 4 ml of juice in here for starters, just until I'm sure that it's not going to all leak out. There you go, just over 4 ml in there. So the wicks now don't reach the bottom, so it's going to depend on me tipping the, should I say, the wicks don't reach the juice now, so it's going to depend on me tipping it to make sure that we get juice to the coil. But I followed the suggestions. I can pop my Ego to 510 adapter on the bottom again. And hopefully we're good to go. I've currently got the Provari set to 4.5 volts, which I find is about as high as I can go really, without getting a sort of burnt taste off this tank. But it's plenty. I'm using this 45 milligram juice still, so I have no concern. With this bite extra stuff, I'm not lacking anything in the throat hit department. Okay, let's give it a try. So here we go. I mean, that was slightly gurgly then. But gurgly I don't mind, so long as the juice doesn't run out the bottom. Now this is, like I say, it's a very runny PG liquid. It's not the best for producing clouds of vapour, but I can tell you that the flavour is there and the throat hit is there. It is actually wicking. With it being such strong juice, I'll take a little drink between these drags, I think. Okay, well, that's my little experiment with shortening the wicks completed. Seems to be working okay for now. I'm going to continue to use this throughout the day, and I'll let you know if it worked. Well, if you're watching this live, in just a minute. Thanks for watching. And there you go. So it seems so far to have been a success. I've been using it all day. I did that this morning, and so it's about 10 hours or something I've been using it, and it does appear to be working very well indeed. It's still a little bit gurgly when it was at the top, but now the tank is it's about 3 mil now, I'd say, and it's working just lovely. So I shall be taking this on holiday with me and continuing to use it. That brings us pretty close to time. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Kat and Dave, who after the full start tonight have been fantastic in letting me know how long I've got left. It's time for me to go. Tune in for Dougie next week. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Until then, thanks for watching.
Cloud9 Vaping, sponsors of Dave's Tacklebox.